Okay, this video is still looking at the design or teleological argument for the existence of God, and so I'm going to look at probably the most famous person involved with this argument, who is William Paly. And his analogy for this is really probably the most famous thing to do with philosophy. A lot of people have heard this argument, and even people who haven't studied philosophy at all, or really even heard a lot about it. And I'm going to give a basic overview of this story, just for those of you who haven't heard it or just need to be reminded of it. Okay, the idea is, imagine you're walking along on a heath and you were to come across a stone just lying on the floor, and it's possible that you could think that this stone had been there forever. You could think that. It's not you wouldn't need, we know that to be wrong, but you could think it. However, if you would come across a watch lying on the ground, you would immediately think that someone had made this watch. You would look at the intricacies of it, and you would see how complicated it is, and you would see how all these different pieces fit together in an intricate pattern which works, and it all works together and everything spins and everything moves, and from this you get the idea that it must be for a purpose. And you know it's a watch, so you look at it and it tells the time, and you know that all these intricacies and all these different moving parts work together to make the watch work. This watch has a purpose. This watch is designed for the purpose of telling time, and if you were to change any of the different parts of the intricacy of the inside of the watch would cease to fulfill this function. So this is the general idea of it, and from this, this is out of the analogy, you could look at this from the first. He has two parts to his argument, and the first part is to do with design and purpose. So looking from the watch, he then compares the watch with an eye. I have a picture on my screen of the schematics for a watch, and then there's also the picture for a schematic, the design for an eye. If you look at the two, they're pretty much similar. There's all the little layouts of the different bits and all the different arrows pointing to the names of different sections and what each of these little sections does, and side by side you could see a comparison of why he has this thinking. So if you look at the eye, you see an intricacy in it. You see how each little bit, the pupil, the iris, the retina, the optic nerve, the ligaments, the corona, and all those sort of things, all of them work together, and you have to have all these pieces perfectly together to work for the purpose of sight. And if even a few of these things are changed, either the sight is severely diminished or there is no sight at all. So from this you get the idea that all these things have a purpose. They are designed for the purpose of sight, and that's where generally he gets the first part of the argument from. And so he says how you can look at a watch and see this design and purpose, and how it has to have this watch has design and purpose, and with a design you have to have a designer. If you look at the eye, using the same analogy, he says you can see also a design, and therefore there must be a designer, and this designer is God. Not only the eye, we can look at other parts of the bodies, and for example a bird's wings. A bird's wings are designed for the purpose of flight. The esophagus and the whole mouth, throat, it's designed for breathing, and in humans designed for the capability of speech. We look at legs and therefore movements and all sorts of different things, and from his opinion you look at all the things in life and that these create a working system, and that the system is designed by God in his opinion. So that's the first part of his argument. The second part of William Paly's argument is design and regularity, and so that in this, instead of looking at animals, he looks at more space-based things. So he looks at, for example, Newton's theories and laws of motion, and from this he looks at, for example, the planets, and sees how all these things have universal laws which control everything, that one thing doesn't react completely differently under the same circumstances. There must be something slightly different to have changed it. So saying that there are these exact things which cause things to happen in a regular motion, in fact in a regular way, and these things have to be done in a regular way, imply that there is a design to something that was done completely randomly in his opinion, something just appeared and was natural, wouldn't have the conformity and the apparent design and consistency that the universe does have. And from this he believes that there must therefore be, of course, a designer for this. A more recent person who's looked at 20th century philosopher Arthur Brown has supported this argument based on astronomy. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce that all of a sudden. And so he looks at the ozone layer for this argument, and I've got a quote for him. "The ozone layer is a mighty proof of the Creator's forethought. Could any possibility attribute this to a chance evolutionary process, of all which prevents death to every living thing, just the right thickness and exactly the right correct defense, gives every evidence for a plan." So he looks at all these sort of things, and people of this supported this argument look strongly at the way slight changes in the world would cause the extinction of life as we know it on this planet. Any changes to any significant changes to the ozone layer, to the magnetic fields around the Earth, size of the Earth, the core temperature of the Earth, any of these sort of changes could cause complete extinction for life as we know it, at the very least. So he says these particular slight changes which are in the Earth compared with other planets are, in his opinion, a supporting factor to this argument. So I'm also going to have a look at some more of the supporters of this argument, and I'm going to look at some more negative views.